particularly women, are always remembered for these tragic deaths when they have them and not their work. Please read this book. I did abandon the Amanda Craig after 20 pages. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Lena and I really like to read. So much so, actually, that I've been reading at a really high rate recently. Usually I do a wrap up at the end of every year talking about my favourite books, but because I've been reading at this faster rate, I'm worried that I won't be able to cover all the books at the end of the year. So I thought it'd be fun for us to do a kind of office style Q1, Q2, like winter, spring, summer, autumn wrap up. Also, wrap-ups are going to become more fun because I've been using the story graph this year. There's a video of me interviewing the founder up here. The story graph is an independent alternative to Goodreads and it has way more functions and it also has some really fun graphs. So I'm going to be chatting you through everything I've read from January to March this year, and then I'm going to be picking out a few of my faves to tell you all about. Sound good? Good. So at the time of recording, the 25th of March, the year of our Lord 2021, I have read so far this year 27 books. That totals at 6,681 pages for you. And according to my reading goal of reading 100 books this year, I am 4 books ahead. Bear in mind, I've read some kids' books. What's cool about Storygraph is you can also set up a pages goal. So if you want to read more in a year, but you don't necessarily want to keep reading loads of short books and you want to have your long book obsession recognized, you can also set a page goal instead of a book goal. These are generally the moods of the books I've been reading this year. The biggest section being reflective, which I think probably goes in line with the whole of Britain right now. Just reflecting. Just thinking on what could be better and what could be worse. I've been mainly reading medium-paced books, that doesn't surprise me, and I favour books under 300 pages. If this was a more detailed graph, it might show the books that I do under 200 pages, because I have a deep-seated spiritual belief that most of the best books I've ever read are under 200 pages, and there's a reason for that. But there are exceptions, and as somebody who is never not trying to write her own novel, don't hold me to it. I've read exactly, this is very satisfying, exactly 50% non-fiction and 50% fiction. I'm really happy with that. My genres are all over the place. The biggest one is contemporary, but we've really got everything at this point. I think maybe we'll see more of a sway either way as the year goes on. And this is my favourite part of the story graph, this graph that shows you by the month how many books you've read. It looks like I had a bit of a dip in February, but that's kind of like a false peak in January because I was halfway through so many books at midnight on New Year's Eve and then finished them at the beginning of January. But I did have a bit of a slump in February and a big resurgence of reading in March, which we'll chat about in a minute. Which books have I read, you ask? Let's go through them fast. Chronologically, I read Wintering, Talking to Your Daughter About the Economy, Luella's Guide to English Style, The Grim Grotto, The Penultimate Peril, A Guide to Eco-Anxiety, The End, Celebrations, Against Creativity, Beg, Steal and Borrow, Artists Against Originality, The Dizziness of Freedom, Betjeman's Britain, Wonderland, I Hope We Choose Love, Love Letters, The Bookshop, If I Had Your Face, Varjak Paw, Fierce, The History of Leopard Print, Why Fashion Matters, Scratch, Writer's Money and the Art of Making a Living, No One Is Talking About This, Transcendent Kingdom, The Twits, Tiny Beautiful Things, Because of You and Such a Fun Age. I'm also currently reading London War Notes, Why We Eat Too Much, The Science of Appetite, Britain by Numbers, a visual exploration of a people and place, Black and British, a forgotten history, and How to Be a Poet. I'm the spirit of chaotic good, and I'm totally fine with being halfway through 5 books. You might not feel the same, and that's okay. But I think especially when they're non-fiction, I don't want to binge them in the same way that I do fiction. I want to take it slowly, absorb a bit, take some time to go back and make notes, which is what I'm doing with Black and British, because the audiobook is... this audiobook... The audiobook is 24 and a half hours long. And with some books, I don't just want to like have read them. I want to know them. Like I want to know the information in it. And the way my brain works, like binging it doesn't work. Okay, let's get on to some books that I want to tell you about. One that really stood out to me that I just had to tell you about as soon as possible was I Hope We Choose Love, A Trans Girl's Notes from the End of the World by K. Chen Tom. This is a collection of mainly essays, but it is interspersed with some poetry and just some more kind of like floating thoughts about violence, complicity, and like extreme left-wing culture. To be honest, I even like hesitate calling it left-wing culture because the way some people act on behalf of left-wing values displays very clearly that they have no understanding of left-wing values at all. If that makes sense to you, then you've seen it too. I had a little cry quite a few times while reading this book. It doesn't shy away from all of the shit that people are going through and people are inflicting on each other, and it doesn't try and distract you with hope. It's like, it's okay, here's a little rattle, look over here, things are good. It has an undercurrent of hope. Does that make sense? We have to believe that we will survive each other, that we will survive because of each other, because there is something waiting for us when the ice melts. Maybe some of the chapter headings will give you a bit of an idea of what's in it. We need to confront a culture of enabling queer community, Jeannie, You're Free, Robin Williams, mental health and the stories we tell about suicide, stop letting trans girls kill ourselves, recovering identity at my grandfather's funeral, an ethnic trans story. She talks about the paradox of accountability seeming to be more the ability and willingness to follow a script for the proper way to apologise. She talks about growing up in her Chinese family and this idea of honour. She says, honesty in my family meant saying what you mean, even if it was unpopular. Honour meant acting in a way that your ancestors would be proud of, even if it requires personal sacrifices to do so. However, honour is not a word you hear very much in the social justice community. I'll stop going on about this, but there's one bit more that I just want to read out to you because I'm just like, please read this book. She says, to paraphrase Emma Goldman, if I can't dance, it's not my revolution. If I can't fuck up and learn from my mistakes, then it's not my revolution. If I can't disagree with you, then it's not my revolution. If I can't ask questions, it's not my revolution. If I can't decide for myself what tactics I will use, then it's not my revolution. If I can't be femme, it's not my revolution. If I can't choose my own friends, it's not my revolution. If I can't bring my family, then it's not my revolution. If I can't bring my culture, then it's not my revolution. If I can't bring my ancestors, then it's not my revolution. And if it's not our revolution, then let's build a new one. It's probably going to be on the top 10 of the year. Just telling you, just warning you now. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, especially in the UK, we're still in lockdown, there are two books I'd really like to recommend. One is Wintering. This is a memoir that is very outward looking. It's also kind of quoting literature and psychology and talking about this aspect of kind of putting yourself on ice, having a winter, a year or a period off to recover, replenish, reflect. And why isn't that more like economically and also socially enabled in society, and how good that would be for people and how it's been good for her and the hard things that she's experienced. It was written before everything, but it couldn't be more applicable to now, and I think it's a really special book. I actually sent it to my mum because she's been struggling a lot and she has already read it twice. I always feel like when people say, oh, I've read this book and I liked it, I'm like, cool, I believe you. But when people say, I read this book and then I read it again, and then I read it again, they're the book recommendations I'm interested in taking. And then also love letters of Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville-West with an introduction by Alison Bechdel. I read this and I did an event with Alison Bechdel all about Vita and Virginia. You've probably heard of Virginia Woolf, but you may not have heard of Vita Sackville-West, which would have been funny to them because at the time, Vita was much more successful and famous than Virginia. Long and short of it, they were ladies in love at a time where we don't have many records or public histories of female romance. And I am somebody who knows a little bit about Virginia Woolf, but not a whole lot, I'll be honest. And I knew even less about Vita. I absolutely devoured these letters, not only for the parts where they love each other, but also the parts where they kind of like secretly hate each other. After they've had an argument, Virginia writes, I prefer you bodily to you vocally. And And some of it's quite steamy as well. Like, I can't believe they were writing this in letters, and not even just because, like, homosexuality was frowned upon in the majority of society, but also because I just picture Victorian women not writing stuff down, like the stuff that they write down. It's so... I also think it's an important one to read because you get such a sense of how happy Virginia was a lot of her life. And obviously she's known for how she died and her mental health struggles. But I also think it's hard that maybe particularly women are always remembered for these tragic deaths when they have them and not their work and the kind of good parts of their life as well. So I think this is a really good read if you are a Virginia fan to see how happy she was, even quite, soon before she died. She writes on the 16th of July, "I dare say few women are happier, not that I am consistently anything, but I feel that I have had a good draught of human life and find much champagne in it." So I think there's lots of conversations around like remembering women for their pain and not for their joy as well. And obviously they're just both two very prolific writers, so it's written amazingly. Like this quote on the back, "I am reduced to a thing that wants Virginia. I composed a beautiful letter to you in the sleepless nightmare hours of the night, and it has all gone. I just miss you." And then the Women's Prize sent me the whole of the long list. I wasn't expecting it. Here's my shocked face. But that's a thing that they did. Thank you to them. Obviously, there's no payment, no obligation for me to read them, but I've started reading them. I can confirm that it's only been a week and I've read 3 of them. Would you be interested in me talking more about the Women's Prize? Because I'm probably going to read more of them and I'm really enjoying it at the moment. Is that something you'd be interested in? Let me know in the comments below. I've always followed the Women's Prize and I've never read like all of the long list or the short list, but it's definitely something that I always use as a kind of corkboard when I'm planning my own reading and working out what I want to buy next. I did abandon the Amanda Craig after 20 pages. So I am letting myself DNF books if I genuinely don't think that they should. I don't think they're up to scratch. Let's just put it like that. But so at the moment, I kind of think this maybe should win, but then also Yargazi Transcendent Kingdom is transcendent. I think the blurb is slightly misleading, or maybe just because it's such a multifaceted book, it's impossible to put in a blurb. But not only does it feature addiction and grief and the character's links to Ghana and her family, but it's also about a black woman working in STEM, neuroscience, studying mice, and also kind of in the same way I talked about the 3 Daughters of Eve and how unusual the premise of that was. It is, again, I would describe it as a will they, won't they between a woman and her religion, which I think is a genre that should have more books in it. So if you're interested in that aspect of like a woman losing their Christianity, a woman working in STEM, then there's that too. Like there's so many reasons that you could pick up this book. I did really enjoy Because of You by Dawn French. I don't think it should win, but I was on principle really overjoyed to see something that would be usually called women's fiction, commercial fiction on the list, and it really brought me a deep sense of joy to see how pissed off some people were about that. But again, if you want me to make a whole Women's Prize video, then I can get into my feelings on that. Gladly. Speaking of enjoying people frothing at the mouth, I was really excited and happy to see a trans woman on the list, and there were some TERFs really popping off on Twitter about that. Let them pop off, I say. Let them froth. So I'm definitely going to be reading Detransition Baby. And there's just so much to read. There's so much time. In some ways, I'm really excited about how much reading I'm getting done. It's one of the bright sides of this strange time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to follow me on the Storygraph, I'll leave the link to my account below, and a reminder that if you want to watch the Storygraph video, it's here. Thank you so much to the Gumption Club. These videos are free, but they're made possible by the people who tip me per video to make them happen. I'll leave links below if you want to be one of those people. Can't wait to chat to you in the comments about books, because it's still my favourite thing. And until next time, Frog Snog out.